I grew up in silence. My mother left when I was too young to even remember her face or her voice. Whenever I asked about her, my father's reply was always short and sharp. She is gone. That is all. After a while, I stopped asking. We lived in a small house near the river, an old house that stood firm like my father. Life was quiet. We had no visitors, and even if someone came, they never stayed long. My father worked hard in a small workshop repairing cars. His hands were always covered with grease, his clothes smelled of oil and metal, and his body carried the weight of long hours. Every evening he came home tired, ate in silence, and went to bed early. We didn't talk much. Words were rare between us. I often wished for more, but eventually I accepted silence as part of life. Most of my days passed alone. I found comfort in books borrowed from the small library in town or in long walks by the river. The river became my companion. Its water moved slowly, calmly, endlessly, and I liked to imagine it carrying away all the words I never spoke. At school, I was different. Other boys laughed, played, and shared secrets. I sat alone in the corner of the classroom. When the bell rang, I left quickly, as if the walls were pressing against me. Sometimes classmates invited me to play, but I refused. I didn't believe in friendship. My father once told me, "People leave. Don't expect them to stay." I believed him. He had lived it. And in my own way, I had too. Girls were no different in my eyes. Some smiled, some asked me questions, but I never answered more than a few words. Their laughter moved too easily from one boy to another, and to me, it looked fake. I thought I was strong because I needed no one. I thought I was free because I was alone. Years passed in this emptiness. I finished school and began helping my father in the workshop. The rhythm of engines, the sound of tools, the smell of oil, this became my life. Every day looked the same. Wake up, work, eat, sleep, repeat. I didn't feel joy, but I didn't feel sadness either. I lived somewhere in between, in a safe emptiness. But one morning, everything began to change. A girl walked into the shop. Her car had a problem, and she wanted it fixed. I didn't pay much attention to her. She was just another customer. I worked quickly, handed back her keys, and expected her to leave. But before going, she looked around and asked me a simple question. "Do you like working here?" I stayed silent. I hated small talk. She only smiled gently and said, "You're very quiet." Then she left, and I told myself that was the end. The next day she came back, not because her car was broken, but simply to stand at the door. She asked if she could watch me work. I didn't understand why, but she returned again the following day, and then the day after that. Sometimes she asked questions. Sometimes she sat quietly outside. My father noticed her too. One evening he said, "She is different." I pretended not to care, but her presence stayed in my thoughts. One evening I saw her by the river, sitting on a rock the way I often did. She turned, smiled, and asked, "Do you like the river?" Nobody had ever asked me that before. I nodded, and she said nothing more. She just sat there, watching the water. Slowly, she became part of my days. She brought coffee once, and when I refused, she promised to bring tea instead. My father liked her. I still told myself she would stop coming, but she didn't. She stayed, not demanding anything, not pushing me. She was just there. I began to notice small things. the way her smile was never mocking, the calmness in her voice, the steady way she sat by the river. She reminded me of the river itself, quiet, constant, and patient. I started to miss her when she wasn't around, though I never admitted it. She gave me a small gift once, a simple keychain with a silver key. It wasn't expensive, but it felt strangely meaningful. I kept it in my pocket, holding it at night when I was alone. One rainy day, she came to the shop soaked from the storm. I told her she should have stayed home, but she only smiled and said, "I wanted to come." We sat listening to the rain on the roof. She asked, "Do you ever feel lonely?" I wanted to deny it, but she added softly, "But you let me stay." Her words went deeper than I expected. That night, I realized she had walked through the walls I had built around my heart without even trying. Then, one day, she disappeared. She stopped coming to the shop. She stopped sitting by the river. The silence I once loved became unbearable. I carried the keychain she had given me, feeling its weight more than ever. For the first time in my life, I understood what it meant to lose someone you never thought you needed until they were gone. Weeks later, when I had almost lost hope, she returned. She stood at the door of the shop, her smile small but real. My father looked up and smiled, but I froze, afraid it was a dream. She stepped closer, her eyes meeting mine, and said softly, "Hello." I wanted to say 1,000 things, but all I managed was, "Hello." Something changed after that. I no longer pretended not to care. I began to listen when she spoke. I shared small pieces of myself that I had kept hidden. She never pushed me, never rushed me, never demanded more than I could give. She just stayed, and that was enough. I realized then that love does not always arrive with noise or sudden fire. Sometimes it comes quietly, like a river, steady and endless. It waits. It stays. And when you finally notice it, you realize it has been there all along. If you enjoyed this story, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to Emma English Practice.